All right. Um, there's a lot going on right now, so I may not be able to show this entire comic getting done today. Um, I'm hoping that I'm actually able to get this done. I may even end up having to do this in multiple parts. I have no idea. We'll see. You'll at least see some of my work for the day. Um, and if it's in multiple parts, you kind of, I guess, wouldn't tell if it was or not unless I told you. I don't know why I even said anything. But yeah, I'll try to get as much done as I can, and you'll at least be able to see some of my work for the day anyway. So here we go. Also, note this scan looks horrible. Not only I don't know what was going on with my scanner, but I myself made a mistake too, to where I didn't. Usually, I darken in the line art before I actually scan it, and I didn't. So that's part of the reason why this looks the way it does. But even this is bad for my scanner. Like I don't know what's going on. Like I've made that mistake before, and it's looked off, but it's never looked like this. Almost, if it wasn't for the fact that I know what stuff is supposed to look like, I really would have a hard time seeing here. Why can't I draw on anything? Oh, I selected the. Okay, that's genius. I'm selecting outside of the line art and expecting to be able to pick something up. Something else that I've come to realize too, and this wasn't intentional, and I did not mean to do this. And I don't know, I love having a lot of dialogue and a lot of my humor, quote unquote, humor in my comics, but my comics always end up having so much exposition in it. And it's like this is kind of an action comic, but there's a lot of talking in it. Because this is kind of a comedy, I can sort of get away with it here, but there's sometimes it's like, do I have way too much talking in my comic? It's almost a thing to just be aware of in my own mind. It's like, dude, is there too much dialogue? There's only but so many camera angles and stuff I can just make up for these conversations just so that the reader isn't bored just constantly reading dialogue and page after page after page of these. Like, I don't want talking head syndrome in my comic. But people don't really complain when they read it, which is a good thing. So either my writing is not as bad as I think it is, or it just fits for my work. I have no idea. But I don't get as many complaints about dialogue as I imagine that I would. That's the funniest thing, anyways. As creators, we're sort of harder on ourselves than other people are most of the time, anyways. Or at least most of the time. God, I can't even see where his beard is supposed to be at. Also, just to say one thing that I actually do, because I keep filling in black in my line art, I do that intentionally. You could probably pick most people, especially if you already make webcomics, you might do this yourself anyways, or you picked up on the fact that I was doing this, but I've said this time and time again, anything to make what you're working on go by faster, I think now would be a good time to save. I'm not trying to say it. Any chance that you have to avoid going back and having to select and figure out extra colors or to like dig into a color palette or anything like that and figure out what you need to be working on or you need to be doing. If you can just fill it in with the black or white easily, I like to do that as much as I can in my line art, or at least to fill my blacks in. Okay, this is god awful. That can't be right. Let's try this again. Okay, I really had to focus on that where I could not see what my. God, this is a bad scan. There's a part of me that just almost wants to go back and quickly just redraw over the lines, just so I could sort of see what I'm supposed to be doing here. Oh, God. I almost had a heart attack. I thought I had been drawing on the layer of my scan, which would have meant that I had been doing my line art this entire time on the wrong layer. Y'all would have just saw the beginning stages of me having a nervous breakdown on one of these videos. By the way, um, if you're new to the channel, go ahead, like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe and comment. Otherwise, YouTube will just never let anybody, whether you're subscribed to my channel or not, it will never let anyone knows that this channel exists. So I'd appreciate it if you're new here. If you've actually seen any of my videos before, and if you watch any of these videos I'm doing during this challenge, thanks for the record. The comments and feedback that I have been getting lately for these videos have been amazing. It can really make stuff go by much quicker when you're interacting with other people while you're working. Now that I say that out loud, that is the weirdest thing to me. I think every video my alarm goes off, just no matter what time of day I'm recording. Anyways, it completely threw me off my train of thought, but it's very interesting to me that I say that interacting with you guys while I'm working is so energizing, considering that if there were, I don't know what this says about me or how weird I am, but if actual human beings was here, I have a lot of editing to do with that panel. Anyways, let me get this out. I get energized interacting with my audience and stuff while I'm working, considering if there were actual people here talking to me while I was working, I would be so annoyed. I don't know what that says about me, but other than the fact that I might be an asshole, but I don't know what it is. It's like if I'm actually working and there's somebody in here with me, and maybe it's because most of the time if somebody's around you while you're working and they're talking to you, they're most of the time talking to you about stuff that doesn't pertain to what you're working on. So it serves as a distraction as opposed to talking with you guys while I'm working or getting feedback from y'all, and it's either pertaining to your artwork or it's pertaining to mine, so it's all sort of related still. That eye is all sorts of messed up. For the record, this is another one of my shortcuts. Like, we have these tools at our disposal working on computers and whatnot. It's like we can use them. And that philosophy of working smarter, not harder too, I actually got from this was around the time that I'd actually quit working on, or maybe a little while after I quit working on Shadow Assassins, right when I started creating Uppercut now. Well, not now, but you know what I mean. I saw a YouTube video from a professional comic book creator who talked about how, I wish I could remember the name, and it may have popped in some of you guys as recommended, but he basically talked about how much time he wasted working on his comic that he spent almost a decade working on, and he could have gotten done much faster had he just focused on getting accomplished what he needed to get accomplished from panel to panel, as opposed to actually taking the time to draw out every single meticulous detail of his comic. Every environment in his comic was hand drawn, even when he was drawing the same environment from the same angle numerous times. He drew it every single time. He had environments where there were a lot of people and busy streets and stuff like that moving around. He drew each and every person, and looking at it, there were a lot. And he basically came to say that he regretted it, because while it does add a little bit of authenticity to the comic to where everything was crafted and drawn by him, he said there were details that the people who read his comic never even noticed. And he said he was putting in like random Easter eggs and like little hidden gems and stuff inside of his artwork. No one caught on to any of it. It's like he just wasted his time working on all this stuff for 10 years. So, and I took that to heart because that was little stuff that I used to do, which granted, I'm not comparing my artwork to his by no means, or the level of my comics for that matter. But I used to, it almost makes it worse. I used to do the same stuff, and it's like no one really cared about me doing it. So it's like if people are gonna miss like the smallest details of your comic, it's like you almost have to think, does the stuff that I'm adding to this page or to my comic matter? Like, it almost made me sit and actually think, is what I'm putting into this comic right now mean anything? And if it doesn't, I probably need to not put it in there or figure out something else to do and not stick it in at all. And if it does matter, the next question is there any way I can streamline this and make this easier so I can actually get a comic completed? That's actually a very underrated thing. And it's a pretty big goal of mine at this point, especially considering I've abandoned 2 comics at this point and I refuse to do it a third time. At least the third time without having one completed. And that's why one of my biggest goals with Infinite Uppercut is to actually just get it done. Like the story that I have in my mind, no matter how many chapters this may lead to, I want to have it finished in its entirety. I want the whole story to be told before I move on to something different. I don't want to keep being the guy that every time he gets tired of his comic or every time it's like things aren't working out or he doesn't have the audience he wants, he just starts quitting. But that's actually a big thing. I forgot. I think the book is called The War of Art by, is it Stephen Pressfield? I can't remember, but I read a book where he was talking about how any creative endeavor, whether it's like comic book writing, script writing, okay, that was weird. Comic book writing, script writing, writing a book, whatever the case may be. I may have just said the same thing twice, but whatever. No matter what artistic endeavor you're taking, he's talked about how the difference between being a professional and being an amateur, which in my mind was simply a professional gets paid and an amateur doesn't. Like almost like athletes, it's the simplest way that I've known there to be the difference between professionals and amateurs. But his philosophy, and it makes sense, is the professional gets work done and finishes projects, whether they're any good or not, and the amateur does not. That was his viewpoint on it. It's like the amateur talks about getting things done and doesn't finish anything, which was me, and the professional actually does get things accomplished. I hope I did just say amateur and professionals correctly there. But I actually love that book. And I think there's an audiobook form of it on YouTube. There's a couple of them. One of them is very weird and it's not as it's written in the book, which is strange to me. Even though it's narrated by the same author, it's not what was written in the book. The strangest thing. And then there's another one that actually is the book, but it's in that robotic computer voice and it's misreading words and all sorts of stuff like that. So that if you can get the actual book, I would recommend that you do so. But it's very interesting. But that is an interesting way of looking at things. Just an amateur will never get anything actually finished or accomplished or make excuses not to get something done or to not work. And a professional keeps working. And they also, according to him, don't just hang their hats on getting a book or something completed. As soon as something's finished, they just work on the next thing. Because essentially, if you're an artist and you actually want to do this for a living or professionally or trying to take it very serious, there's not really going to be a point to where it's like, okay, I've made the greatest book ever written, so I can just stop now and just retire. Like that day will probably never come. So you will more than likely be working on art for the rest of your life. So you will just need to keep creating, essentially, which is what makes doing art professionally such a, I don't know, it amazes me. But there's no guarantee that I'll make any money from this. And it's like, there's almost a weird beauty in that. When bills and stuff needs to get paid, that becomes complicated, but that's such a strange thing about making artwork. It's like if you focus on money, you'll probably never really make it, and your artwork will also be garbage. But if you focus on art, you're more likely to make money, but at the same time, there's still this very realistic chance that you won't make anything. It makes no sense, but it makes perfect sense at the same time. Such a weird profession. I absolutely love the comic that I've made, and I love it for its dumbness. I enjoyed, especially coming from somebody who absolutely hated drawing environments in comics and whatnot. I love the environments in the world I've created so much, but this world makes absolutely no sense. And I mean that in terms of like where things are located, where things are. Like, I'm not even sure if you can see this, and you can't. Um, nope, certainly can't. Well, off on the side, I have another page up that I'm sort of picking colors off of. You might have seen it in a previous video of mine, but there's a tour bus that all of my characters are currently on. But the room that they're inside of is like this gigantic throne room. But as I said before, they're on a bus. They're just on a tour bus. And it's a regular sized tour bus, but every time my characters walk onto the bus, it's almost like a mansion or this gigantic castle with like thousands of rooms, and these rooms are like humongous, and it logically makes no sense whatsoever. It's so stupid, and it makes me giggle like I'm the freaking child. I think that may be why I enjoy this comic so much. Any opportunity that I can take to make something as stupid or as ridiculous as humanly possible, if I can think it in that moment, I'm gonna do it in my comic. And I think it's the sole reason why I haven't gotten burnt out with it like I have all my other comics. I also had a thought one day to do a YouTube video showing all the things that actually influenced me making this comic. I don't even know if anyone would care or be interested in me doing that, but if you would, just let me know. Which I'm getting ahead of myself because it wouldn't be feasible for me to even make that video until like the fall, when I would at least be done with this challenge. And considering I don't plan on doing Inktober this year, I should have time in October. Um, all right. And I am calling it quits here. Like I said, I'll go back at some point and add the text. Oh, perfect time. And I actually need to get off of this anyways. So, yeah, this is day 7 of 100 days of making webcomics. So I'm out.